Good morning, everyone. Microphone check. Screen check. Looks like everything is working correctly here. Good, good. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully everyone is able to rest up, get ready for the day ahead, all that fun stuff. Take a couple extra seconds here for people to get logged in and all that. I had an issue with the login link, and it didn't want to take the update for whatever reason, so it might take a couple more seconds here for folks to log in. But either way, good morning, SSFTG family. I hope you all are doing well and you're rested up and ready to rock as per the usual. On the right side of the screen there, make sure to read through the Live Trader Morning Prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that is inside there. How's it going, Terry? Good morning, good morning. Just a quick note for you all before we jump on in today, if you're watching on the YouTube side of things. The stream does have a little bit of a delay, between 5 and 30 seconds, depending on where you're logging in from, and that will definitely impact the timeliness of what I may be talking about at any given time. Hey, Vicky, how's it going? Also, I just want to take a second, like we do every day, to thank all of our new members, subscribers, Academy students, VIPs, and everyone in between. Thank you all so much for the support. I'm super excited to have you all on board. Welcome to the SSFTG family. If you aren't a member yet, you do have a ton of different options to check out if you're looking to further your trading education and career. The easiest way to start out is to join as a member on YouTube. It gets you in the chat room and a bit more behind the scenes and what's going on. Or if you want more info on how we do everything in our trading approach with over 20 hours of video course material and a ton more, swing over to the main page at ssftg.com. So whether you're here for the very first time or you're one of the VIP vets over on the dedicated stream, welcome and good morning. I'm glad to have you trading alongside me today, analyzing these crazy markets of ours, wrapping up the week, going into a Friday, all that fun stuff. Let's take a look at some news, take a look at some charts before we get into things and see what all is happening for today. Of course, don't forget to grab your morning DP levels. Those are posted for you on the Major 7. NASDAQ, S&P, Gold, Crude, Euro, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. Whew, man, we're on fire. We made it the whole week. Didn't trip once. It's a race every time, though. As far as the news calendar is concerned, we have some news at 10 o'clock. New home sales for August forecasted 714,000. That's it. Well, I'm sorry, no. We also have Powell speaking at 10 o'clock, but everything is at 10 o'clock, and that's it. We do have some medium news announcements. It's the usual Friday stuff. U.S. Baker Hughes oil rig count, CFTC speculative net position stuff. We see it every week. It's there every week, to be expected. We'll see how things want to play out today. Let's take a look at some charts, see what's going on, and go from there. On the NASDAQ, we've got a little bit of a continuation pullback to the downside after an incredibly aggressive rally to the upside from the bulls. After that bullish rally to the upside, we completed... Whoop, where's my drawing thing? There we go. After we completed that rally to the upside, the question was, well, is this going to be a channel? Are we trying to come up and grab some of this previous structural support resistance in here? Which they did. You know, what's trying to happen here? And while the market's rallying higher, I was looking at the short side, right about in there. And we'll get into that in a second and how that all played out. It did eventually turn around and worked out really well. But it did require a lot of management. And if you go back to yesterday's recording when we were talking about how we were going to play that field, if you will, the entries and exits fit that exactly. It's really funny. Like I said, we'll get into that in a second. But one thing is for sure, the bulls were trying to get a very aggressive blow-off. And that blow-off initially was working pretty good. But then we had that lower high and a big flush to the downside. Now, this does not mean that the market has to go all the way down to the lows. But if we're looking at this from a realistic standpoint, we have to say that the structural side, the swing, is way up here. And until we break that swing, we still don't have a reason for the sellers to, or I'm sorry, for the bulls to try much. It's not to say that the bulls aren't winning the battle right now. They're obviously doing pretty well. Maybe not so far this morning and last night, but the overall momentum to the upside is what they're trying to get going, and it looks like maybe they're trying to get an objective, right? Maybe something is trying to get filled up. So let's take a look. Let's go back from the top and work our way to the bottom. Of course, God forbid the volume actually works here. But I think it gave us a little teaser there. Yes, sir. Right there. They came back. We grabbed the previous... I mean, this is from the top to the bottom. It's an impulse. It's as impulse as you get. If the bulls are going to win this fight, they have to break above 15 and stick the landing, and they couldn't. So now that we've rolled all the way back down again, that doesn't mean that the bulls can't try to rally this back up again. They certainly can. But when we get back up to these 315s, it's likely going to be a zone of resistance, and that's right at about settlement. Settlement got left behind. It did trade above it a little bit. Yeah, this is starting to look like maybe there's a bit more juice to the downside. We'll see. We've got some nice back and forth continuation. If we're looking at the base from the bottom all the way up to the top, we can see that the overall volume persistence, of course that's broken too. Let me move it forward. Hey laddie, how's it going? Let me move it forward a little bit. There we go. So we've got the POC, which is trying to get built up at the top. And I mean, again, given the context, seeing this monstrous volume coming up here, and the fact that it's directly on top of the previous POC, huh, who would have thought, right? It's all lining up. It's all making sense. It's all coming together. So the fact that we're rejecting out of this zone isn't unheard of. In fact, we were talking about that most of yesterday. It just went a lot further up than I wanted it to initially. But the sell side momentum to the downside remains the same. Their objectives are down here because they couldn't shift the POC up. And the fact that the POC has not shifted higher would suggest that they haven't done enough averaging to bring their average back up to the highs. They're still predominantly stuck from the lows. Even if their average was still up, it's still probably around here. They're in a difficult territory yet. They haven't done enough work. If the POC would have shifted up here along with that retest, that would have been a massive clue. And it could still, because remember, if they do pulse back up and retest, what a perfect time to shift that POC. Oh man, I tell you what, I got my eyes open. Right now, though, the trend to the downside is still intact, and if the bears are going to take over, they've got to break back below 15.035. That's the impulse from bottom to top, although the sellers are still maintaining their structure pretty strong. Over on the S&P, also seeing it pull off of and continuing to the downside. Previous swing high, not broken. We've been talking about that for a while. We do have a continuation up, but here, as well as the NASDAQ, what this is kind of standing out to be is a little bit of a wave 1, wave 2, now what, right? What do they want to do from here? Is this wave 3 and now we're wave 4? If this is an impulse, it should not get back below 43.97 because then that would invalidate it, right? So if that's the case and we were to turn higher here, you know, if that were to happen, let's just say as an example, then we would have our fifth wave impulse to the upside. Now look where that puts price, right? For a fifth wave to the upside, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A fifth wave completing, and let's use the fib numbers because we know how they love them. We've got that 618 right inside there. Look where that is. That's right above all of this structure. So, I mean, you know, to me, I kind of want to look at it more from the bull's perspective to finish this last leg off, and then look for the sellers to come back in again. That said, if we gain enough proof and we start sliding to the downside a bit more aggressively, then the sellers have just taken over. But at the very least, from a 5-wave perspective, we haven't necessarily had those 5 waves, which is a bit of a concern. Over on gold, after flashing all the way up on that top with news, getting obliterated back to the downside again, we've got a lower high continuation. And if we follow this overall structure along the way, we rotated off of an L3. And with an L3, the typical assumption is going to be an L1 follow-up. We haven't had it. We finally got the pullback to the L1, and the L1 failed. Now, I say failed because, I mean, technically it didn't. If you look very, very close inside there were a couple nice little scalpers bounces, but from the perspective of it like hitting it and rejecting back down, they were complete and total failures. So with that metric ton of failing going on from that perspective, and I've got a weird gap in my data here. I know that's the close to open, but that seems bigger than normal. Hang on, let me reload my data real quick. I want to make sure this is correct. Okay, yeah, it is. That gap is incredibly important, which is why I wanted to double check, because all this pullback is realistically doing is re-challenging and allowing the bulls who bought this dip to re-enter, and we're coming back to that break-even point. This is the spot. Like, if the bulls are going to take this and they're going to win the fight, which, again, nothing is suggesting that they are. Right now, the trend is still healthily to the downside. So if you're going to go long, realistically, you can't expect it to be high probability. That's not how that works. But we are seeing some signs, like the L1 sellers getting train wrecked. but they held the L2 with a phenomenal trap on the highs. Look at this dive down. I mean, at the very least, we have to expect that it's going to have a secondary leg. So, I mean, as it stands, we are coming back to a major zone of support, and we are seeing support coming in, to be fair. I just don't know how long it's going to stick here, you know? Even if it does go down to the lows, kind of reversal-esque, if you will. Over on crude oil, it's a 60-minute chart. Hang on. There we go. So as far as a 15-minute perspective goes, we have a very nice trap on the base. That's not the first time either. Did it before and then did it again. Oh, you thought you got the best price? You put your stop under the low? Oh, thanks. Nice and tasty. Gobble them right up and rip their face off. As far as the momentum to the upside goes, a lot of times when you have that type of trapping, those pip traps like we always jokingly call them, the pick your pocket, that's usually the end of the move. A lot of FOMOers will start rallying up into this and continuing up because they got suckered out of the move, so they want to jump back in. They FOMO their way back up, and usually the upside objective is the high. But here's the thing. When they make it back up to the high and they blast off through it, I'm starting to think, well, wait a minute. This might actually have some support coming in. This might have a shot at getting a breakout pullback and a continuation up. We do have the overall trapping on the lows and everything like that, but if we look at the overall structure from the closer term here, the biggest pullback that we've really had, I mean, what was an L1, another L1, into another L1, into another L1. It's just been L1s the whole way up. So, I mean, eventually there'll be a larger pullback, and that larger pullback is anticipated to be in the 2s. You know, it'd be really nice. It's a trap underneath that low into the base of 3. Whew. That'd be really nice. We'll see if they can get it, but at the moment, there's a lot of sideways action going on, having a little bit of difficulty. If we go from the bottom to the top on the impulse, it doesn't work because, God forbid, Ninja's volume works correctly the first time. We've got a POC, which is stacked up at the highs, and that's unfortunate because I don't know when that actually happened. My drawing is here, though, so I would assume that it happened before then. So a very, very top-weighted POC in 3 pulses, which usually suggests stuck shorts are building, and they're trying to get the heck out. The overall location of where they may want to try to get out at, pretty straightforward, around the 7150s. That's the predominant volume. Now, from a structural perspective, if we zoom a little further out, go to like a 60-minute, we can see that there was an incredibly strong reversal off of the base. But after that reversal, it just never pulled back. The highest point would have been here. That would have been, what, wave 1, wave 2? And all of this is like, well, this could all just be part of wave 2. This could just be wave 3, wave 4, wave 5, and we see it basically just kind of stall out and go sideways. And that may be what we're doing right now. But at the same time, if this wants to get some legs, this could also just be wave 1, wave 2, and we're still inside wave 3 looking for a monster breakout. Looking at the previous major swings, we are just beginning to challenge those, and that's what's needed to reverse the trend. How's it going, Kashif? So that's what the bulls are looking for to break above that if they're going to be successful. They're getting close. In the faster picture, though, a little bit of a different scenario. That top-weighted POC is crazy. Over on the Euro just getting rammed through right now, but kind of looking like they may want to try to create like an inverted head and shoulders. I don't like the shoulder line. That kind of sucks. But where we are right now, one thing that I really want to pay attention to is this inside swing, right where we are at the moment, actually. That's the zone where the market tried to break out of with the news, and it failed to break out. So now that they're rotating back up in, any shorts that got stuck down there are being given a chance to get out. And, well, we'll see if they take it. But this is a pretty healthy pullback after that drop, or after that rip. The one caveat that really stands out is the fact that we had the news high, and when the market rallied back up, they missed the high, lower high, and it just seems like buyers kind of gave up. That could cause some really big problems for a persistent slide back to the downside with a perpetual bear trend, which again hasn't technically reversed now that we have that new swing high. We're looking at the new lows. But we are in a zone of support, so I can't exactly short right now. Over on, excuse me, jeez. Over on Bitcoin, we've got a monster of a pullback. Big rifle to the downside. One of two things is going to happen here. This is either a V-bottom test and we don't come back for a very long time. A lot of bulls are hoping for that. If that were the case, it should be relatively soon when we see that takeoff. That said, the other side of the coin is that the bulls do not get the bounce here. And we see something like this, where maybe they get consolidated, chopped, maybe even try to get a bull rally and fail. Then it's game over. Right? That's the larger pullback that we've been talking about for a really long time. And this kind of drive to the downside is a really good way to start that off. Especially with a trap on the highs. So, we'll see. Looking really good to potentially sit on hands and hodl right now, though. If they can dip underneath the lows, then, you know, if it's underneath... I like looking at it from a double value perspective. So if Bitcoin's off the highs by like 60 or 70%, I'm interested in DCA and all of that stuff. Ethereum, same thing. We've got a continuation of the downside, big flush lower, testing the inside swing. These look like almost identical charts, except Ethereum did slide just a bit further. They've got more work to do if they're going to hold this inside high. We'll see what they can do. All right, let's take a look at yesterday. So a couple things. First off, the NASDAQ, if we look at how that all played out. Like we were talking about yesterday, I was initially looking for this to have a continuation pulse to the upside, which 100% did not happen at all. While it was rallying higher, it was starting to build in and then realized, wait a minute, this is a pretty wide open door that could start spanning out. So held off the gas pedal a little bit, added just a few, not much, on the way higher. But once we put in that high and the market started pulling back, looked like maybe a lower high reduced a bit of the risk. Those initial exits, remember, the market operates as first in, first out. These were pretty heavy losses, those first ones. Those don't feel good. But remember the goal, the objective of what we're trying to do here when you're averaging in, averaging out, just like we were talking about in all these POCs. If I get stuck, it's not time to panic and freak out because it should be within my trade plan. So I need to adjust, right? How do I adjust? Well, while the market's rallying higher, let it rally higher, and then start selling into those next highs. As it pulls down, take a couple more losses because first in, first out. But what is this doing? This is effectively moving your average up, right? So when the market does, because the context was still down, eventually roll over, instead of having an average way the heck down here, my average is now up here. I had to take some losses along the way, but as the market rallies back up, sell a little more, reduce a little more risk, sell a little more, reduce a little more risk, until it finally breaks away, and then you can take the rest off. It actually kept going further. So in the end, if you were to look at the S&P and the NASDAQ, you can see they had very similar situations. Same thing, S&P got stuck, hit the pause button inside there because I don't want to deal with that when it's in a breakaway mode. So give it some time. It puts in a little bit of a high, starts selling into the high. As it comes back, this did break above the high more aggressively than I wanted it to. So when it pulls back, I've got to lighten the load. Eat some of those losses. First in, first out. Doesn't feel good, but welcome to life. Because now, where's my average? My average is up here, right? So when the market rotates back down again, these are all scalp targets. These are 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 5-to-1 targets to the downside again. You're compensating. You're accepting the loss initially so that you can roll it back over, assuming, of course, that the context stays correct. So that's how those ended out. Now, if we're looking at the number, what is today? It's the 24th, so, well, those are easily going to be the biggest trades, so we'll just do the numbers for the week. Just so we can see, again, trader's math, ensuring that everything is maintaining appropriate approach. This is from the beginning of the week to today so far. Had a lot of trades inside there because I built into the trade. Overall accuracy, 66.67. And we look at the ratios. Average winning trade, 50. Average losing trade, 59. Ratios, 0.85. 0.85 is not great. That doesn't necessarily feel great, but when we roll down, we can see that all of the averaging, all of the ins, all of the outs, all ended up to be about 1-to-1. So we know that the numbers are still good. We didn't trade anything inappropriately. We stayed well within the risk tolerances. We did what we were supposed to and managed it properly. If those numbers were massively out of whack, then something is wrong, right? So as far as yesterday's kind of back and forth, this morning was the final exits right when we started out. When I first woke up this morning, I was starting to exit into them at around 5:30 when we were talking about it in the chat room. Aside from that, not really much else has happened. There was a very nice follow-up gold short that we were also talking about. Although, man, talk about missing the frickin' bus. Jeez. Oh, mein Herz. Oh. It happens. It happens. It sucks, but it happens. We were sitting at a 3-to-1 target. I'm not going to let a 3-to-1... I mean, if you look at the ratios, you've got a 0.5-to-1, the 2-to-1, the 3-to-1. I didn't have any more contracts. And this just goes to show you, everybody's human. We all deal with it, right? This is why I highlight these areas, too, because you're not alone. It sucks when this happens, but man... at least one thing is for sure. We can go back and we know that we were in the right area. We were looking for the L1 continuation to the downside. They got the L1 continuation to the downside. It worked out beautifully. I missed half of the move, a little bit frustrating, but we still caught the first half. So, it's a give and take. You gotta be happy with what the market gives you. It's real frustrating though, I gotta say. After that giant dive to the downside, a lot of shorts likely took that as icing on the cake. I would have. Anyway, and with that icing on the cake, they quickly exited as it started reversing back up. So nobody wanted to stick around. They realized, wait a minute, their targets were here, and if they didn't exit there, they were rewarded with a monster drop. Nice icing on the cake. Congrats to those who were able to get it. I unfortunately missed the bus by about 10 minutes. Whew, that stings. But, it is what it is. And now that we have that drive to the downside, we know the psychological context. Massive drive down that wasn't necessarily expected. Lots of icing on the cake. Everybody realizes that icing is thin, and they start taking it real fast before it's gone. Before it's gone. And then, in fact, it goes negative and gets worse. And if the shorts were looking to re-up, you can see they tried. They failed and exited the rest of break-even right there. So right here was a very valid attempt from the bulls. The sellers had given up. The longs were trying to take over. The one big thing that they're missing, of course, is a major trend swing shift. That hasn't happened yet. We do have a minor one. But aside from that, we are way far away from a trend shift from a swing perspective. And now that we've fallen all the way back down, realistically, I think this is going to re-exemplify the short's interest, and the bulls are very much under the water if they were trying to get this to rotate up without paying attention to the overall perspective. Very, very interesting where gold is. What a slide. Crude oil starting to pull back. I mean, good lord, finally. Like, jeez. We were talking about this thing having an alpha. You can still see the drawing. It's non-existent now. There's a little bitty L5 drawing back there. We were looking for an L5 into an L2 rotation. Now, don't say I didn't warn you, but it is there, and boy, did it work. I missed it. I did not get into that. I missed the whole thing. I was focused on the NASDAQ for obvious reasons. So, there really, it's just not much that I did there. But if you were watching, that bounce was absolutely nuts. Now, here's the thing. We didn't break to a new high. We're coming back. Buyers are re-upping. But if they start losing their ground under this, that could be game over pretty quick. And then we start sliding down back to retest some of this previous structure in the lower 72s. Oh, Lord. Help me. My wife is texting me pictures of puppies. Somebody help. Send help. I know how this goes. It's everybody else's puppy, but guess who takes care of it? Happens with all of them. Right pipe. It's my dog sitting there snoring away in the background. Yeah, to be 100%, we've been talking about looking for some type of animal after that our kids can kind of look after and help with, especially after our latest dog had passed. Trying to fill that void obviously is difficult, and it takes a little bit of time. For anyone who's lost any pets, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But you know, as far as like puppies and stuff, the nice thing is we still have our other dogs. So with puppies, they kind of help each other train, and the kids can kind of help raise. It's a responsibility thing. It's definitely been on the burner, but there hasn't really been a whole lot of talk. And then out of the blue, I get a text of a wall of pictures of puppies. You know, guess it's game time. That happened fast. Oh, Ziggy did for me, for sure. Ziggy filled that void for me. He's my homie, but not for the rest of them. We need photos of Ziggy. Where is he? He's probably massacring something. He's freaking huge now. I don't. We gotta throw him on the scale, but he's massive. Like not like when you look him up, the ones that's like the size of your torso, but he's a big cat. Definitely tomcat size, like big boy. Which is what I love. I love huge animals. It's like Great Danes and stuff. Like, oh, you need water? Let me fill the sink. You know, like, yes. Oh, for sure. For those who've been around me for a little while, you know, I am not a big cat person. I grew up on a farm. Cats were utility. You know, like you hunt and you do your job, and if you don't, then get lost. You know, like they just totally utility. We really didn't care too much about them. And I've never really been a cat person, but Ziggy was just, I don't know, he's just a totally different cat. He's more like a dog. We play fetch, for God's sake, you know? I mean, he's basically a dog in cat skin at that point. Which for me was exactly what I needed, you know. At the same time, the cat personality of, like, you can leave for a week and come back and they look at you like, oh, where you been? Hey, how's it going? My food dish is empty. Slacker. With a dog, it's like you go out to get the mail and you come back, and I love the excitement, but after a little while. It is nice to feel that loved, though. There's no love like a dog love. Market's just sideways, a little bit choppy, sloppy going into the open. Not a whole lot going on, although it is lifting just a bit. NASDAQ is catching a little bit of a pulse further down. Gold getting absolutely annihilated lower. Big pulse to the downside. S&P, I mean, the S&P is catching a real nice lift here. This is some very nice bullishness. If they can keep this up, I don't mind at all looking for a continuation type move. But I've got to see some juice, you know. It's pretty early to the party. Alright, market just kind of hanging out, not really doing a ton. Highlight the open. That move on gold is crazy. That top-weighted POC? Yikes. And now we've got a bottom-weighted POC. This could be that V-bottom. Yeah, they start plotting candles like that. NASDAQ versus the S&P. The S&P is demonstrating a heck of a lot more bullishness than the NASDAQ is. S&P still going. NASDAQ's like, wait, what? What's happening? All right. Really nice bullishness on the S&P. That thing's screaming right now. Crude oil also demonstrating L2 continuation support with a really nice bounce out of this. First 5-minute POC plotting at 25, like 24.50. Now a little bit further up, 25 quarter. NASDAQ is also pulling back. 202 is... it's kind of there. I would honestly like to see the NASDAQ pulse the highs one more time. Like, the S&P has so much more confidence to the upside. The NASDAQ seems like it's kind of lacking a little bit in that department. One more good move above the highs to, like, really prove it, I think would be a big help. Nice job, Ace. Good work. There we go, NASDAQ. Now we've got a bit more proof. See, that's what I wanted to see. Just a little more. Very nice continuation. Still further up. Very little pullback. Almost none, actually. So the S&P has it at 26, shifting the POC to 3050, but it's still developing on this candle. NASDAQ has it still back at 15202, although 222 seems a bit more interesting. S&P poking the top again. Nothing else really changing. Sheesh. All right, NASDAQ first target immediately off on that quick little pop there into the scalper's objective. God, that happened fast. Now let's see if they can follow through a little bit more, though. I'm looking for, you know, like the upper 30s, low 40s for the follow through here. If they can keep it going. Nice pulse to the upside here. $32 quarter. What, did it frickin' hear me? Jeez. Alright. Nice objective off there. Final objective is going to be back up to the 38s. Come on, you bad mamma jamma. There's that Samsung again. Nice finalized pulse to the upside. Beautiful move. Fantastic! What a way to start out a Friday, huh? Jeez. That was a beaut! Nice little pullback. Back into the highs, back into resistance. Nice continuation. If they're able to break above the 40s, I only took it with 3, but if they're able to break above the 40s, they may have continuation further up. Hang on. Gotta zoom out a minute here. Back to not just these previous swings, which is, I mean, a little bit further up, but, you know, maybe up to like 54, 55. There's some room. S&P didn't pull back, at least the NASDAQ did. Thanks, NASDAQ. Nothing else really happening so far. 8 bull bars for the... Yeah, I mean, it's going really aggressively up on the S&P. It didn't even pull back. Like, the NASDAQ, at least it pulled back. But, I mean, look at those bull bars. That's crazy. And they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, too. So, parabolic blow-off. A little bit of a concern in terms of it reversing, I guess, but... And the POC's up at the top after 3 obvious nodes higher. Yikes. And here it sits. S&P also plotting the POC up at the top along with the NASDAQ. Gold is still way down there. And it is not looking good for the bulls on gold. Wow. That's brutal. More continued bullishness to the upside. S&P closes on top of the POC at the high. No, actually under the POC at the top. NASDAQ closes above. Although that's the first time. On this dip, NASDAQ buyers may be re-upping. This is the same spot that they were buying before. I think the trade's already kind of done. But it's here. We know bulls love re-upping into positions. Maybe this is finally the pullback that the S&P's been waiting for. The only reason I like this long, because normally the POC up at the top would scare the crap out of me. But the only reason I really still like the way that this is going is because there's still 4 minutes left on the candle. There's tons of time for them to catch the pop back up. Of course, going off the assumption that I actually get, like, far enough down to get filled. Come on, S&P. You got close. Three minutes still left. It hasn't left the station though, so it's still okay. I'm all right hanging out there for a second because it hasn't like gone ripping, but oh my god, really? One tick away. Honestly, for a longer picture, if they can really break out of this, they've got a shot at catching a nice run. But if they start breaking down too aggressively, like if we start getting underneath the 24, something's probably wrong. Next big volume node is the 24s. So pushing down into the pocket of volume. Which so far is still supporting. Nice supportive bounce out of the volume pocket. Volume holding up so far. NASDAQ way down there, but now we've got a POC shift on the NASDAQ at the bottom. So we'll see what they want to do here, but market's just kind of hovering. We do have news at 10 o'clock, which is about 9 minutes away. Got a little bit of time. Good bullish continuation to the upside. Nice spot for the first objective. Now, the way that it played ball was a bit more aggressive than I wanted it to be, so I'm still going to try to hold out for that inside high, but it's got to break above these, and I've got to mitigate some of the risk by reducing position size. The bull's got to take it. We're back at the POC. We're having a little bit of a hard time. Lots of volume coming in, but they're getting above the POC. Come on. Come on. It's right there. I know you can. POC, point of control. In volume profile and order flow, POC stands for the point at which the most volume traded at. So in this case, 44.30 half is where, out of this range that I have measured, has traded the most volume. That's what that means. Beautiful drive to the upside. Keep on going. We're in the 30s. This is the zone right up here. All right. Nice little spot back up towards those highs. Fantastic. A little bit of a vindictive SOB on that pullback, but we had the volume node hold us up, so it followed the plan, worked out nicely. But because that dip, I did have to fall back on that volume. I didn't want it to pull back that far. I wanted to dip underneath and create a wick. Remember we were talking about how early it was in the candle? Because I wanted to wick underneath and close high. It didn't. So we've got to modify. I've got to reduce some of my risk back at the POC, back at the previous entry point, scalp area, etc. And then go from there. I hope it's not too much to ask. Let's see. Well, maybe. I don't know. No, it's all good. Let me see here. Could you make the candle wick size 1.1 or 1.5 for us? The wicks are blending into the background and all I see are bars. Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure. Give me 1 second here. So I'm modifying the top left. Okay. So as far as the top lefts, let's go candle wick of, I don't know that. Yeah, let's try like let's try that 1.5. Okay, I don't. 1.5 looks super blurry and terrible. Why? What is that about? Okay, 2 looks okay. Man, it did not like those decimals. How's 2 look? Does that help? Okay, cool. Let me modify. It's visible now. Well, that's helpful. Let's modify that to 2. Kind of curious what it looks like when I zoom way, way out. It's going to be thicky central. No, it's not, actually. It doesn't look too bad. I kind of like it. It gives it kind of a cool structural vibe. Wick 2. And wick 2. Does that look better? Across the board, I mean, now that we can actually see it. Before I forget, let me save the workspace. Oh, and then, yeah, we can save as default fast. And then I can translate that all over to the other charts, and we should be good. Again, news right around the corner at 10 o'clock. Yeah, no problem. Give me 1 second here. I stumbled upon an issue that I've got to take care of. Alright, hang on. I gotta try. Trying to fix an issue, sorry. Okay. Damn near had a heart attack for a second. Whew, okay. Good. Good. Anyway, bulls are continuing further to the upside, and they're rocking and rolling. Alright, sorry, I'm doing, I gotta test a couple things in the background to make sure that everything is working the way that it's supposed to be. Alright, we are hitting 10 o'clock as well, so feel free to get those questions in, and we'll get those taken care of while I'm messing around in the background here. Okay. Okay, I think I got everything working again. Sorry, it's a small little panic attack there for a second, but I think we're all good. Whew. All right, let me make sure. I got to go back and double check all the questions. I just missed probably 5 minutes worth of questions after I just asked everyone to type them in. Right, looks like there's some questions on the VIP side, but I'll take care of those in just a second. Let me check the YouTube side, and if not, then we'll swap over to the extended member session. And we'll go from there. Okay, good. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. So, as far as the morning session is concerned, and as far as the week is concerned, it's been a really solid week. Hopefully, you had a fantastic week. Yesterday was a bit of a challenge initially getting into the trade, but overall, that was really the only difficulties we had this whole week. Everything else has been pretty straightforward. I'll take it. For the extended session, we'll be moving over into that. So for VIPs and members, just hang tight for real quick, and we will swap over, and then we'll take care of the rest of the questions that came in on the VIP side as well. But for the rest of you, as we go into the weekend, enjoy the weekend. Get away for a little while, right? Take some time. We make more decisions, like we always say, we make more decisions in a day than most people make in a week. Take some time to get some mental rest. Get away from it for a little while so that you can come back on Monday ready to rock and roll. So that'll do it. Enjoy, rest up. For the rest of you, hang tight, and we'll see you all next time, all right? Have a good one. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.